20 facts, Dragon Tales. Number 1, it's totally wild to think about, but this massive, vibrant universe basically exists because one guy decided to just completely flip his life upside down. After 40 years of teaching, he dropped everything to paint whimsical watercolors, completely leaving his regrets in the dust. I mean, imagine making a career pivot that huge later in life and having it become the literal foundation for something we all grew up with. Number 2, so he's painting, right? And then he just randomly stumbles across an encyclopedia filled with mythological creatures. It completely shifted his whole vibe from black and white drawings to these incredibly soulful watercolor dragons. And get this, his art festival sales literally quadrupled overnight. People just instantly connected with these gentle little monsters. Number 3, I absolutely love this detail. You know those giant magical beasts? They were actually modeled after his own pet dogs. A super shy golden retriever inspired the timid pink dragon, and a much bigger dog became the blueprint for the giant yellow and blue one. Rooting these huge fantasy creatures in the goofy, familiar behaviors of everyday house pets just gives the whole thing this undeniable, cozy warmth. Number 4, talk about the ultimate lucky break. The sheer serendipity here is insane. An assistant to a major studio executive just happened to walk by and spot these watercolors at a 90s art festival. That one completely random encounter led to a major pitch meeting, taking his artwork from a quiet little festival booth and turning it into a massive television landscape. Number 5. This is where things get super interesting behind the scenes. They teamed up with some huge names in child development and did something crazy. They completely dropped traditional academics. No ABCs, no counting. Because of his background as a teacher, they pivoted the entire project to focus strictly on social and emotional growth, which was just completely unheard of back then. Number 6. Now, try pitching a show with a purely emotional curriculum and asking for massive funding. Sounds pretty much impossible, right? But they somehow pulled it off, scoring major government backing way before social-emotional learning became the standard trend it is today. They were literally building the blueprint for emotional education before it was even a thing. Number 7, this is where the heart of the story really beats. Instead of giving us flawless, untouchable heroes, they purposely designed characters who actively failed and struggled with their own fears. They structured the whole narrative around the idea that messing up is a totally normal, incredibly valuable part of life, showing us healthy ways to cope in real time. Number 8, the lore here is actually so brilliant. They built the reward system directly into the biology of the dragons with those magical glowing badges. But the catch is they only glowed when a character accomplished something they personally struggled with. It meant that victories weren't about just defeating some random bad guy, but about achieving real internal emotional breakthroughs. Number 9, the nostalgia hits so hard with this one. When it launched in the late 90s, everything hinged on this amazing transition ritual, an enchanted dragon scale, and that iconic magical rhyme recited by the two siblings. It literally became a cultural touchstone for an entire generation. It just instantly transported you into that whimsical fantasy world. Number 10, Cassie's character design was so incredibly deliberate and honestly so beautiful. She was specifically written to embody childhood anxiety, constantly fighting the urge to shrink away from conflict. Her arc was so important because it proved to quiet, anxious kids that they could find their inner strength and be brave without ever having to change their gentle nature. Number 11. And then you have Ord, who totally shattered traditional masculine stereotypes. He's the biggest, physically strongest character in the whole group, but he was written to be the most easily frightened. It completely redefined courage, teaching us that being scared is entirely normal, and true bravery is taking action even when you're absolutely terrified. Number 12, what a seriously clever narrative trick. To force characters to deal with interpersonal friction, they literally trapped two complete opposites, a neat freak and a wild child, in one single body. By physically connecting them, they created this brilliant constraint where their badge would only glow if they actually stopped bickering, resolved their differences, and learned true teamwork. Number 13, you probably didn't even notice this as a kid, but the whole setup is completely inverted. Usually, magical beings swoop in to save ordinary humans, right? But here, the normal kids were actually the competent guides, saving the magical beings from their emotional crises. It was a genius way to empower us watching at home, proving that ordinary kids have the power to help others. Number 14, they took a really bold swing in the later seasons by tackling the heavy real-world issue of displacement. They brought in Enrique, a new kid who just moved from Colombia, shifting the entire narrative focus. It let them deeply explore the struggles of missing your homeland, starting completely over, and trying to find your footing in a brand new environment. Number 15, adding Enrique did something super important for representation. Sure, it brought bilingual vocabulary into the mix, but more importantly, it gave Spanish-speaking kids a peer their exact own age navigating cultural duality. Instead of just relying on an older, wise adult mentor character, kids could look at the screen and see a younger reflection of their own daily lives. Number 16, this is one of those symbolic genius moments from the writer's room. To seamlessly integrate the new kid into the group, they completely changed the flying dynamics. They made the bold choice to have the newcomer ride exclusively with the chaotic, bickering twins. It practically forced the most conflicting characters in the whole group to physically unite around the new kid. Number 17, the absolute success of this approach is undeniable. Even after the final episode aired, reruns kept broadcasting for another 5 whole years. It totally proved that modeling crucial life skills and teaching kids how to actively persist through their emotional hurdles wasn't just good for their development, it was a formula for pure television magic. Number 18. By doing all this, they set a massive new standard. They proved once and for all that kids don't just need flashy, superficial action scenes to stay engaged. They are just as captivated by deep, internal emotional conquests. It showed that recognizing emotions, setting goals, and demonstrating empathy could actually be woven into daily entertainment seamlessly. Number 19. Looking back at the creator's legacy, it really is something beautiful to marvel at. He lived to see his original watercolor vision change the lives of millions before passing in 2021. Just think about that midlife creative awakening we talked about at the start, turning quiet reflections of his own pets into lifelong companions for an entire generation of developing minds. Number 20. When you get right down to it, the true magic was never really about escaping to a fantasy land. It was always about giving us the tools to conquer the turbulent landscape of our own feelings, externalizing those struggles, making fear a giant monster and conflict a two-headed beast, completely demystified those overwhelming emotions. The greatest adventures and most profound victories always happen right inside our own hearts. Honestly, it makes you wonder what emotional dragon you're still trying to tame today. If you had a blast hanging out and learning all these wild facts, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button, share this with your friends who need a nostalgia trip, and definitely smash subscribe so we can keep diving into awesome stuff together. Catch you on the next one.